Behind the scenes. Every Thursday, I host an episode of either Behind the Scenes or Transformation Time. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and today's guest speaker is Alex Mustatea. On Behind the Scenes, our guest speakers help you by sharing their experiences on the deals they've currently worked on. So we'll get to go into the property and see what strategies they worked on and how this deal was supposed to come about. Then we'll go into the numbers. And then the best part of all is that we get to hear the problems they've encountered, how they solved them, and if it was something new, what they learned from it to change it for next time. So if you guys are ready, let me see if Alex is here. Give me 1 second. Alex is not here. Okay. We can wait. He'll come on in a minute. I can see Nancy's on. Hey. I can tell you guys, actually, our networking event is coming up next week. It's coming up pretty soon on Wednesday. We are going to be doing a market update. And it's going to be a great topic because, hey Nancy, because right now is the time to know what is going on. The market is changing. It's so fluid. So you just want to know what's happening in the market and how to make the right decisions. Because like that, especially for mortgages, things are just changing so quickly that we have to be kept up to date, to be honest. With all the changes to just be able to make the right decisions for the kind of deals that we're doing. So if you really want to join and you find value in that, definitely come on to next week networking event. And then afterwards, you'll also get to network with other people. And this is all virtual, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I can see that Alex is here now. Let me just get him on. Oh, Alex, if you're on your computer, you need to go on your phone. If you are on your phone, we may have to restart, but double check your phone is up to date. Because right now it's showing me that I can't invite you in. So usually that means you're either on your phone or you don't have the latest version of the Instagram. Or sometimes it's just weird and we have to restart the whole thing again. I hope not though. But yeah, so if you can just quickly go and check and see that your account you have your Instagram up to date, and come back on and then we can try again. Let me just double check that he is, oh, actually that is. Oh. What is going on? Did I bite someone? Uh-oh, where are we? Okay, we
I'm
did it,
getting
right?
there. I'm
You're
getting
on?
there.
Okay.
How do I? I
Okay.
need to just bear with me 1 second. Go back off, and I'll be right
Maybe
back.
you can change the camera. You can change the camera to show the other way.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do.
It's like at the bottom probably. Or actually, sorry, on my screen it's in the middle. You have the little two arrows to go back and forth.
I don't seem to have that.
You do, you do. It's somewhere in there. Well, while you're trying to figure it out, do you want to just tell the viewers? I don't know if you actually, oh, he just decided to leave. Okay. Okay, I guess he's going to come back on. But yeah, so now I'm just going to reiterate again the networking event. You guys want to come to my networking event. We are going to be doing an update on what is going on in the market and like that. Like now is the time, to be honest, to be going all the networking events. It's just so much stuff is changing that everyone you just need to be at everything to know what's going on. So let's see if I can get Alex back on again and see if we can get this going. There we go. Hey, Alex.
How's it going? How's it going, guys?
Good, good. A little bit of technical difficulties, but we made it happen.
Yeah, that I'm back from the 90s, but
So
I
let's
think I
get
have a way
started.
to fix this thing.
Pardon?
Just bear with me one more second here.
You found
I
out how to flip it though, because you're showing us the property, or are we just going to talk about it today? We're going to talk
No, we're
about
just going to talk about it. I'm in my home office, and for anybody watching, I hope to God that I bring any value to warrant this sort of disturbance I'm trying to get on.
it. Okay, no worries. So
Uh,
awesome. So let's start with just telling the viewers, just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. What is your real estate strategy? How long have you been in it? Anything you'd like to share?
sure, yeah, no, that'd be my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I apologize for the difficulties of actually getting on. A little bit about my background. I born and raised in Romania. I was a teenager when my parents immigrated to Canada, and I pursued into what I thought my calling was, mechanical engineering technology college program, and then sort of pursued a career in attempting to climb the corporate ladder in various roles, from design, product management, project management, and leading to technical sales. So I do have a bit of a background in project management and technical sales. And then at one point or another, well, really, it was back in 2008, I had an opportunity to buy my first home and move out and live in it for a few years. And then once we got married, and we wanted to buy a different property. Instead of selling that first property, I decided to rent it out. And I was lucky enough to have an ideal tenant, in the sense that she had stayed in that property for upwards of 10 years. At the time, I thought it was ideal, and she was a very nice lady. Don't get me wrong. It was fantastic that I was able to hold on to that property that long. In today's mentality, you kind of want the opportunity to be able to increase rents, and that's not, but I'll take a good tenant like that any given day. And that one property served as the launching pad back in 2019, when I finally appreciated the value of becoming an active real estate investor. I also have a bit of a background in construction, so I kind of took on a few projects on my own, and that's where my active real estate journey started. But when I decided to commit to that, the capital, the additional equity that built up over those 10 years, the market appreciation, completely inactive. I didn't do anything to that house. It was turnkey. As a matter of fact, that house was a flip that I had bought. So I was a consumer of the same product that I now offer. Without doing anything to that house, it appreciated in value so much. Obviously, everyone's aware of what's happened in the past few years. When I sold it in 2020, I was able to basically walk away with sufficient capital to be able to quit my job and go at real estate full time, and invest that money, on the one hand, feed my family, and for the initial phase, and then the other, put that capital to work on other projects. So that was just my 10-year real estate investment career as a highly inactive, completely passive, sit back and pray that it don't really add a whole lot of value to that one asset. And then I started, it was back in 2019 that I was introduced to the idea of a legal duplex, and the concept of the BRRRR strategy, even though I had refinanced properties. So once I bought that property, I bought another one, and I ended up having 2 long-term buy and holds. And that second one I sold only 3 or 4 years later. But I understood the idea of refinancing and pulling out equity. I just never appreciated the potential of forcing it at the front end, doing it so much quicker. So within, let's say 6 months, like you buy it, you renovate it, you rent it, and you do it all within a 6-month period. And you do that intentionally on multiple properties. You rinse and repeat that capital. So once I understood that, I did that once. I did it by myself. I did all that work myself, and I realized that I can swing the hammer on 1 or 2 of these projects per year at best. It's not, it's nothing more than becoming a weekend warrior if I do it all by myself. And instead, if I'm going to make a business out of it, I need to obtain mentorship. I need to do this better, develop relationships, and be able to do multiple projects at the same time. And that means me getting off the tools. So back in 2021, I had committed to 12 different projects. I quit my job and managed 12 projects from 2021. Some more successful than others. Lots of lessons learned, drinking from a fire hose kind of thing. But if there was ever a year that you could afford to learn some hard lessons, 2021 was that year.
100%
Yeah.
agree.
Sorry?
And so I said 100% agree. This was definitely, these last 2 years, I think were a great time to learn, because now we're getting into the hard times where it's just like, did we learn our lessons, right? And this will be the testament to all real estate investors to see if they've actually learned their lessons. Because sometimes, to be honest, learning your lessons when you're still winning, I don't think they impact as much as when you're actually losing.
So
So
it's
see how that.
100% true, Diana, but it's, one of the, like everyone that has a podcast right now is talking about the changing market. So I guess in many ways, I feel compelled to touch on that through my experience. We've learned a lot of lessons in 2021, and we're able to do so while still making money. And I'm happy to share the example. There was a project that went bad in so many different ways. The scope creep, changing and firing general contractors, hiring other far more expensive general contractors, and we ended up doing twice the projected profit on that one project. So again, that's my example. You can completely, fuck up a project and still make more money. So I like to think that I've learned a lot of lessons and didn't lose money on that project. I was lucky. I'm learning new lessons now, man. So it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be losing money just because I learned a few lessons then. There's new
Oh,
ones
no,
to
no.
learn
I'm
now.
just
Don't worry.
thinking that's where you're gonna see, like, for example, we're gonna I feel like we're gonna see a divide between certain types of real estate investors, right? There's like that I'm just saying that there are some, because I can tell you I've made lots of mistakes and I won, but I learned from them. As you're saying, you've learned from them too. But there's others that haven't, or may have not really seen things. And that could be a problem going in, right? If you didn't learn from it, is all I was getting at. Because I think everyone has probably gone through have gone through problems in a real estate project, and it's just having the awareness to know and understand and kind of like dissect it. So I think this is a good segue, because then we can talk about which property you're going to talk to us about today.
I guess I do have numerous projects on the go, and so I can touch on a little bit on the change in strategy, maybe. That said, I do have a couple of projects that I committed to. I'm not going to say I'm pretty confident that I still bought well, even though they were committed to in that February to March time span. I think that the purchase price there is still, even in today's market, it was still good. But my exit strategy, I've kind of already moved on to plan B. And one other project that could very well be a new plan C. So there is two that I'm taking a hit on for sure. For what it's worth, it was by luck that at the peak of the market before like that February when it started declining, I had a few projects that were already sold and I just needed to close on them. So I didn't have, and I wasn't buying anything in that time span. It was by luck that I didn't buy anything at the peak of that market on the market, anything that I intended on flipping. The one that I did, the plan B was that it could easily turn into a short-term rental, and I think it'll do very well at that. So that's the one that is already pivoting, and then the financing associated with that is such that it'll allow me to do that. So it's not just the purchase price. I think it's also what's your financing. If you got into that at the peak of the market with hard money, that's when you're going to hurt the most. And that's where I've seen a lot of investors right now take big hits. It's buying high as well as the, bad financing. So I feel like there is one project where I bought high, but the financing isn't that bad. So that kind of saves me, allows me to pivot to plan B.
And that's interesting. So you bought one in February, and it was intended to be a flip. But I think, but you're still then going to, I guess, is it still going to be duplexed? Was that the initial strategy, or
No.
what was the initial strategy of that one?
No, that one is a bungalow, I shouldn't say bungalow. It's a 1.5 story, like the 8 frame up top, single bedroom. So it's a 3-bedroom house, 1,500 square foot actually, sorry, in the Stinson neighborhood in Hamilton. So it's a relatively good area where I think we'll still have an opportunity. There are a reasonable opportunity. So it's near completion at this point. There's a reasonable opportunity to walk away with a very minimal profit, almost insignificant, if I were to put it on the market based on the stats. Obviously, we won't know until we try it. So our first thing will be to put it on the market and see what it does. I'll list it, maybe I'll list it at where I'd like to do as far as making a profit, and then I'll evaluate how much lower am I willing to take, how close to walking away even Steven. But I'm not prepared to lose money on it because I'm confident that I can rent it and hold on to it for 12 months to maybe 16 months, and then eventually try it again at that point. So that's the one that's going to be, that's like on the cusp because it's near completion. There is another project and part of a larger joint venture partnership where it's supposed to be a tear down and a new build. And that is going to happen. I think we're about to obtain permits on that. The problem is we're going into winter, so we need to really evaluate how much work we want to take on before actual winter, like before it's way too damn cold to be doing framing. And if that's the case, then that moves us into May by the time they can do anything, which now that holding cost may have a negative impact, and that's where I may need to turn into a duplex instead of a single family home with the intent of us holding on to it far longer. So that's the second one.
Land? Is it land or had a house and you demolished?
No, there is a house that we're afraid to shut the front door because it might fall on us. Yeah, so there is a structure on there. So because of that, we were able to get a mortgage on it, not a conventional mortgage, but we did get a mortgage on it. But so, that's one out of a bigger partnership, and that's one that is suffering, but there is a plan B and the plan C really is to move into to do a duplex with a garden suite. It has a very sizable garage that's in way better shape than the house. So we may actually do a garage suite as well.
Oh, that's cool. So you're going to keep the garage and just the house is being torn down and built.
The garage is detached. It's set in the back of the house. It's already there. It's grandfathered. We wouldn't need to comply with the setbacks. Grandfathered in the sense that it's already on the position, like it's whatever I don't know what the distance is currently from the lot line, but we wouldn't need to comply with the new setbacks to today's code or bylaw requirements. So
and I was just going to say for that property, so so you've already submitted the drawings, the permits, right? You said like you're just waiting, the approval should be coming any day now?
Yeah, technically we should be getting the permits within the next 2 weeks.
And so like, let's say for that one, so that property, because you said you've already started pivoting. So, because that means, will you have to, for example, right now your drawings is a single family home, right? Is the drawings a single family home?
Correct. But
and then you'll have to do changes to make it a duplex? Yes.
The hurdle and the delay in permits was the fact that we're increasing the footprint of the main dwelling. So let's say that we're going to obtain permits by next week. It allows us to proceed to demo and work on the foundation and potentially even erect the building itself. And in that process, we could go back to the city and modify the permit to a duplex. It doesn't go to a duplex, a legal duplex. We're not going to make any exterior changes. I think we're still we already have a separate, it's going to be the internals that are going to be different. We already have a back entrance allowing for whether we do it in the basement. I think we would actually do it on the main and second floor. So the point is that we could modify by the time we get around to doing any of the interior work that makes a difference is going to be out in the spring. So we have plenty of time to modify this permit. We needed the demo permit, and in order to obtain a demo permit, you need to have the new structure drawings approved by the city. So that's on that end. And then the garage suite, the potential for the garage suite, again, it would be its own permit that we could apply. We wouldn't be doing that. To be perfectly honest, the garage garden suite, if we are very adamant in milking all we can out of this one property, in which there's nothing wrong with that. In certain instances, you want to do that, then we would do that. But really, that garage, to me, the fact that it's probably about 550 square feet, and it's newly built, like close to the lot lines where this is now being grandfathered, newly built, meaning in the past 10 years or so. That to me is a bonus to the future investor. So if we do a duplex on the main dwelling and we sell it as a duplex, we obviously sell, like, let's say that we part ways with it for a premium that we're making profit. It allows the future investor to then come back and add value by making that garage themselves into a garden suite, adding value in their ability to burn this project out. By the time they're paying us $1.5 million for the, and maybe I'm exaggerating, but let's say that they're paying us a premium for the duplex, you know, there's not a lot of room usually on a single duplex for them to add more value and be able to burn it out. But if they do the garage themselves, then they've added value to it, and they can then refi at a higher value as well.
Yeah, 100%. And so you said that this one's in Hamilton, right?
Correct.
So how long has, because for a development, what are the phases that you've had to go through so far, and how long have they been for you?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. This one in particular, this is the only project that I've done in the past 2 years where I'm not the main active partner on. So this is a partnership between my general contractor as well as design architect. So this is Wise Construction and Ken Beekendam with legal second suites. And it's, you know, relying on them. I'm almost, actually, no, I'm taking the more money partner position on this one.
Okay. Okay. So they know what's going on with that, the logistics of that?
That's right. Now, in an attempt to answer your question, the delays here have been on the demo side. So on the fact that we're increasing the footprint of the existing dwelling, past we had to obtain a minor variance, which has now been approved. I believe our design includes, it includes widening the building as well as making it larger in length. So then again, you're taking a larger footprint. So that's where the delays came in.
And so what did you guys expect it to be? How long did you expect it to take?
We were hoping that we would be receiving permits by September, and we were receiving permits a month and a half later at best at this point. The downside is that it's putting up.
So it's not too bad of a difference then, at least so far as what we're expecting. If it does come in 2 weeks, it's actually not that bad, is it?
Well, yes and no, because if theoretically it doesn't sound like a lot, but being so close to winter, it may have a very serious negative impact. If we did get it in September, it would give our guys enough time to demo, fix the foundation, erect the building, and seal it by middle of December. By the time we get it now, it may not have enough time to do any of that. And if we're getting too close into December, I don't think it's wise to start. So we may end like a month delay in the permit, receiving the permit may delay us 6 months in the actual project.
Yeah, I hear you. That makes sense. You're right. Because 1 month delay, but it's actually delaying the actual workmanship of it, which is the bigger problem. So let's say if it is going to be about a 6 month delay, were you expecting permits and renovations to be about a year together?
We were hoping to have the building erected and sealed. So whether it be siding, whatever exterior materials, I don't even know they're not really selected. I don't necessarily be involved in that. But we were expecting to seal it up by the end of the year, by the calendar year, by December, and then allow us to move inside. And even if it took us another 3 months to get everything done inside, 3 to 4 months. So by April, May, we were hoping to be completed.
How long was that in total? What were you guys expecting in total then?
So just over a year by the time we were completed. Now it's probably going to be more like 1.5 years as a minimum. Now the changing market conditions. So again, that's where we may go from a single family home. It's in a very good area. we would have done well. We may need to be evaluating the duplex idea now. It could be a luxury duplex. It could still pertain to a homeowner that wants the ability to rent up as well as have that additional garage potential. But it's something that we're still toying with. And if in fact we get too close to winter, then we may have quite a few months to decide which way we're going.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like that. Like it's kind of also it gives you time to also adjust and kind of go through because like that things are changing so much. I feel like in the market that it also I guess gives you the time to just see what is the best strategy for you guys to continue.
I do want to touch on one thing that because we briefly discussed or it was brought up the market conditions. There's a lot of everyone says there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of fear, but when you experience it, that's when it kind of like really hits you. So this is one that we went in, this one particular project, we went in knowing plan A, B, and C and a relatively high amount of risk. So I'm coming the way I see it as a real estate investor who I'm and one that works with a lot of joint venture partners. In this case, it's Alex going in on this particular deal with other partners that are active themselves, general contractors and architects. And it's my own money on this one. Whereas my other deals are with joint venture partners. And, I'm very confident on the deals that I've preceded. I'm like, I want to stay the course, but it is really disappointing when you see the fear on the other side in your own partners in some cases. So I don't obviously going to go into details on this, but this is kind of what separates, I hate the phrase here, the men from the boys, it sounds a little bit pompous here, but in some ways it is what separates the actual real estate investors that are in it to make a business out of it and grow this thing and weather out these storms versus somebody that's looking at making a quick buck and they get into over their heads and half a point on the interest rate. It's not like it does not need to kill a deal that's meant to be held on to for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's funny you say that because I remember there was a person that was telling me, they're just like, oh my God, I can't invest right now because the interest rate is at like 5% and that's just crazy. And I was so surprised by that because I was just like, you should actually be excited and happy about that because that's going to last like what, 2-3 years maybe. And I'm like, this interest rate hike is bringing down the values of properties, which like to me, it's amazing because you're going to invest at a lower amount. Yes, you're paying interest higher, but if you're cash flowing or meeting whatever your criteria is in the moment now, and then you go to refinance in the 2-3 years, and now maybe it's at, let's say 3%, I was like, you're laughing even more. And I was just like, I'm like, this is the time to be investing, guys. I'm like, this is actually the best time.
and so in many ways, I've done just that. And like, we've been able to get into some serious deals I'm, again, very confident, good deals on the market that will make sense long-term. It's interesting, like seeing some of the people, and again, it's because it's recent, I feel very compelled to talk about it, but I'm obviously not going to here to outright point fingers, but it feels like some of these folks have sat on the sidelines throughout 2020, 2021, watched major projects get completed and major money being made. And then finally they're like, okay, now I'm ready too. The market takes a shit, and all of a sudden, no, I'm not ready anymore. No.
It is actually really funny to see that. That was like something I was talking about before too, where it's like when prices are going up, there's fear because it's like, oh my God, it's hitting the top. And then now when prices are going down, it's like, oh my God, it's hitting the bottom. Like, I don't want to lose money. And it's funny. It's just like, for the unexperienced investors, there's like never a win, right? Because it's like either the prices are too high, you can't invest, or it's gonna go down lower, it's gonna go down lower, and you can't invest. You know, it's like I was like, I don't know if you'll ever buy a property, and if you're always thinking in like that situation.
In those terms, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the idea of timing the market, like it's important to, buy it, like if you see the dip, like, yeah, go and buy, but don't wait around for the dip to buy. Buy just you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And it depends on
Yeah,
the
it is
strategy too,
interesting.
right? In the strategies, it matters. Like for example, like if you're doing long-term holds, whatever, be it a burr or just like a turnkey. I mean, why do you care about what the price is? To be honest, as long as it meets the fundamentals, you'll be winning in the end, whatever that end is for you if you decide to sell it. Really, I feel like where it comes down is like the flips. The flips are very important. Like you really gotta run those numbers. Like right now, like conservative numbers is very important for running for flips and making sure it makes sense and you have all the contingencies in place to try to do a flip, because it's just like it is a very changing market and you have to be prepared. And like you said, you even in this time around, it is important, like, okay, you're gonna do a flip, but you do need to have like that plan B, that maybe if I don't sell it, can I still handle it and keep it or whatever. Um,
And it's the people that got into the peak of the market, they bought, whether or not they bought on the market, but they bought at a premium with hard money with no ability to refinance. So like, let's not, over, like, you don't have plan B. Like, I want to be almost specific. Like, I've gotten into projects with hard money, but I know that I can get favorable financing somewhere else in some form. Like there's either a joint venture partnership where that partner can then go and get a conventional mortgage, or we can put even a B lender at this particular rate. Like whatever is happening in the market right now, like, I don't know, up until not too long ago, I was saying anything below 5% interest rate, it's a rounding error. It sort of is if you bought the project right. It's still the case. The only thing is we're not going to get out as fast. So maybe we short-term rent it, maybe we rent it in some form. We hold on to it in some form for the time being, and then that additional time, is it breaking anybody? Is it actually bankrupting anybody? If that's the case, then you got into a bad deal to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, plan A, B, and C can be meant in so many different ways, not even just the different real estate strategies. It can be even like you're saying, like, okay, different types of financing, or there's just so many different ways to have ABCs happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For sure. So that's a good point, because it is true. It's not just even about the real estate strategy. It's just like so many different things, just like all the different variables, like which are the important ones that need to be changed to make sure that you can get what you need done.
If I've recently learned something from someone else's experience, and for the most part, I've not been smart enough to learn from somebody else's experience. I've had to do my own mistakes. But most recently, the one thing that I've come across is investors that have bought high, and as the exit ARV was coming lower with the market, they are reducing their renovation budget. And it's just like, all of a sudden, like, we're going to do this flip in Hamilton that starts out at 700 and we're trying to get out at $1 million, but we're going to leave 40, 50-year-old wooden windows, single pane windows in the house. Like, yeah, that's not going to work, man. Yeah.
But actually, curious on your opinion now that you're saying that. So let's say in the renovation sense, because that's what you're talking about right now, what kind of changes are you seeing to, let's say, how the renovations are being done or changing?
Well, so that's, if anything, that's actually my whole point, is that so the way I may evaluate, let's almost ignore the exact market conditions, but the way I would evaluate a deal is, okay, what's the highest and best use exit point? $1 million. I can sell this thing for $1 million. What does it take for me? How much money do I need to spend to get it there? $200,000. And then I want to make $100,000. Therefore, I got to buy this thing at 700 and not a penny more. So the variable there, the only variable you can control, in my opinion, is the purchase price. I don't think you might have some control over the renovations if you're running your own crew, and such as maybe in your case, where you can find certain efficiencies within your organizations, but not cutting corners, not reducing the scope. If you're trying to bring it to its highest and best possible use, then you got to do all that work, man. So the 200 is non-negotiable to me. I don't have, like, in some of these projects, I'm working with a general contractor who I rely heavily upon. I'm happy for him to keep it at that point. That's it. Like, if there's no major scope creeps. So, and then, like, maybe to address your question, like, if I come across a project where I have a leaky foundation that surprised me, I may decide to, I don't know, not go with hardwood with hardwood flooring and go with laminate to save a few bucks, which is obvious. I'm not cutting corners, but that's something that I may need, you know what I mean? Like, I may need to back down some of the quality finishes in order to fix a major problem. But otherwise, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to try to squeeze the rental budget just because I didn't buy right. So as an active real estate investor, really the only thing that I can change, the market can change my exit point, in which case I need to have a second. My phone just rang, so I have to decline that call.
No problem.
I need to be prepared to have a second, third exit strategy, but I can't control what the market's going to do. So the exit is not controllable. The renovation budget is not something to temper with. So the only thing that I can do is buy. And then, yeah, I mean, I can take a lower profit, I suppose. But, right? Nobody really wants to do that. So,
but in different strategies and like locations and stuff, are you looking in different areas, for example, of Hamilton that you feel that are better, better suited for the type of environment we're getting into?
Yeah, I'm actually, unfortunately, it's not, this is something recent that's happening, not on my end, but somebody relatively close to me that's it's in the process of refinancing the property that's pretty close to a bad area of Hamilton's, Barton Street. And there's very few lenders that want to lend on it because of its proximity to Barton Street. I will make every argument, being a Hamiltonian for the past 25 years, I don't make the argument that it's in a strategically good location, being close to Bayfront Park, GO Station, James Street North, which is an up-and-coming area, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of reasons why I think it's a good location. However, lenders don't like its proximity to Barton Street. So things like that you want to be that much more cautious with, because you're kind of forced to remove, like, your plan B is to refinance and hold on to this asset. It's not to sell it for immediate profit. And now you're unable to do so because nobody will refinance you. So if at one point back in early 2022 or late 2021, you'd have no problem financing that project, now lenders are that much more cautious. So buy in good areas. But, I focused on the Hamilton West Mountain, which in my opinion, and someone might decide to challenge me on this, but for your average, 1,000 square foot 1950s bungalows, it is the best area in Hamilton that you can be doing these duplex conversions. It doesn't get better than this. Like, you have access to the highways, proximity to Mohawk College for rental potential, and the hospitals. There's like a lot of positives here. So I really can't imagine anybody coming in and saying that they're not refinancing these deals because it's in a questionable area. So yeah, being aware of that.
Yeah, that's very interesting you say that, actually, about questionable areas. Thanks, Benji. But I think that's very interesting you say that, because it kind of actually shows me that even different institutions take things very differently too. Because, for example, what I've been hearing was actually that, for example, properties that are like 800 and lower, for example, are selling quicker, or getting financed and things like that easier, compared to if you're hitting like the $1 million properties. They're saying they're having issues. So it's really interesting, because that just shows even just the fact that really knowing which institution, probably like knowing what are all the different rules and regulations between institutions, and making sure that what your situation, how your situation will be impacted, and making sure, I guess, you're finding the right ones. Because I found that very interesting that you're saying that they were having problems. Again, I know Barn Street is not a good area, but I was just surprised even by saying that, because yeah, because for example, like mine is not in the mountain. The one I just sold, it closed on Monday. But I happened to meet that like I was under 800, and I met that criteria, and we actually closed quite quickly. Like it was like literally one week conditional, closed within 3 weeks, done. And it was like boom, 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 go. And I think it's because these specific people were probably like that, like had the probably interest rate locked in, and like had to meet probably their criteria. Um, but it was very interesting that you said that, because that just shows us that, like you're hearing different things, I'm hearing different things, and it's probably really related to the kind of mortgage broker you use, the kind of institutions they're mainly working with, and to be honest, the changing environment that I feel like everyone's still confused, and then like something changes, and then a new, there's like, okay, how do we deal with this situation? And and like that, because everyone's just kind of like on the go trying to figure it out. Things are just so like dynamically changing on the fly. What do you think?
100% on my experience, and like this again, this is not like there's probably people that can call this out to not be exactly. This is what I've sort of experienced, is that especially with the big five A lenders, their appetite for residential mortgages, investors or not, changes on a regular basis. There's incentives that all of a sudden they need to hit certain marks, and all of a sudden they're kind of, not that they're loosening up, but they're a little bit more open. And then there's something happens at I got this from my accountant, it's not me, that refers to these five banks as CRA banks, because CRA is heavily influencing their decision-making process. So all of a sudden there's a bit of an inquiry, and all of a sudden they tighten up the requirements on what it is that they're going to fund on. The particular case that I was referring to, the first position mortgages was one of the five banks, and they would look at refinancing with that. Could they potentially come in and put a B lender in second position, or a hard money? Yeah, of course. But the initial attempt here was to refinance with the existing A lender. And now all of a sudden, the same lender that lent on the deal back in January, February, is no longer even interested in talking about it. Just never mind their ability to service that additional debt. They're not even willing to entertain the discussion because of its location. So I'm like, you already hold a mortgage on this. Why won't you want to look at it again?
Oh, actually, that is very, very interesting. I've also seen someone else go through that problem too. And it's very funny, because actually, for example, one of the reasons that I've always done my BRRRRs on private is because I've always heard this from before, but I think it's even worse situation for people now. Like you said, they're not even entertaining it because they already have your business. But I've always done private. And again, I do much bigger projects where it's like I have to do private because the house is just not livable. But it is interesting to hear, because I also heard another person who they were able to refinance, but they weren't allowing to refinance for the full amount. And it was like a very small amount that they got out of the deal. But it's also very interesting, because like that, I think once you have a bank's business, they're kind of in control, like you're showing right now, right? It's like they can decide, I don't feel like refinancing you, and just like, and let's say if you're fixed, especially, you're already stuck in it and you can't get out. Or like that, like for example, or in their case, they were able to get through a refinance phase, but they were nowhere close to like a 75% loan to value of like what they were expecting. They got, I don't know, probably like 50% or something of the value. It was like very negligible amounts that they refinanced at. But yeah, I feel like those things are also good to take into consideration. Is like, if you, especially right now, like you said, if you're using a bank and you already have them as your business, I don't know if refinancing with them is like, should be like, you should have the ability to refinance out too, if you really need the refinance. If not, then stick with them, wait until this recession, there's bad times, and then maybe do a refinance. But it is like they do definitely have the control right now, because I mean the fear in the banks are also there high, like really high right now too.
Yeah, yeah.
Your thoughts?
It goes back to that initial discussion about how you got into these deals as the investor themselves. Like, if you can't refi that one project again, like, what is that stress just the fact that you can't do another project, or is it putting you close to bankruptcy because you can't afford it because you may? So those are two big extremes in my opinion. If I need to leave money in a deal, it just prevents me from doing two other deals. Well, then I'm going to have to get inventive and figure it out. That's a business problem. If I
Yeah.
can't, if leaving money in a deal means that I can't feed my family, that's a big problem. Like, you got into this, you're way over your head, and there's a bigger problem there.
100%. Yeah, I
So
completely agree.
yeah,
It is. And like that and there are people who are getting in those situations right now, and it's definitely because I'm curious actually now going forward in like let's say your current deals like that, like what kind of changes as a whole, like anything, not even just renovations, just as a whole, how are you changing the way you find, because are you still looking for flips? Or are you getting more into the burrs? Or you're like doing
I
flips with like the plan Bs being other things?
So at this point, like anything, so the two projects that we talked about initially were sort of the last ones where the main scope was the flip. The reality is that everything else I have on the go, and anything that I'm currently searching for is always the intent is to something that I can add substantial value in forms of a renovation. When I say that, is conversion projects, whether it be it a duplex with a garden suite, be it a fourplex. We've recently, the last project that we closed on is a fourplex in Simcoe that's intended as a buy and hold. Like, we're going to turn it over. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to add value to it, but it's intended to be held. It's not. So, to give you kind of a short answer is that I'm not looking for flips. Flips are something that I think like a lot of investors have either done or definitely considered, but heavily reliant on the speculative market. And it's one that's going to come back. Will it be as juicy as 2021? Probably not. But considering the ongoing announcements of increased immigration that we're going to have and the lack of housing, there's always going to be another market where you can make quick money. It's just so if I'm not looking for flips, that's kind of a general statement, and I stick to that. I'm certainly not looking for lipstick flips. Those are even more speculative, in my opinion. So if
I
I'm
agree.
going to take on anything that I feel like the renovation needs to be considerable so that there's a lot of value being added. So therefore, I bought it very well, and I'm I feel like every.
There's
Sorry
a
about.
huge margin. There's a huge margin between where it's worth it. It's actually that's my thought too. If it's a flip, it has to be like a full gut job. Like there has to be a substantial margin because there has to be substantial profits to have mistakes happen, because not mistakes happen, but I mean in the sense of for markets to continue dropping, like there needs to be like that super nice buffer, amazing buffer there that is just like you can withstand whatever is that happens. So I kind of agree with you there. Same thing with me. If I do find something, it has to be like a disaster of a property.
Yeah, to have that, like, to be able to justify a larger renovation, and there needs to be, and that allows separation. I've talked to a few guys that I've taken on most recently. Well, in my opinion, is a lipstick flip, and like you're changing kitchen cabinets, flooring, some backsplash, and appliances, and their next exit strategy is, I'm gonna sell my house and move in here if I can sell this one for a profit. I'm like, okay, man, like that's not a business. That's a okay, fine. I suppose you're gonna salvage your money. You're not gonna lose. Understood, but I
Yeah, I
mean,
hear you. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And so, actually, so I'll give you my opinion on something, and then you can tell me your thoughts on it, because we're also looking at properties, and we are even changing actually the way we do our renovations. So I was curious to hear your point on it. But we're looking at, multi-unit properties. And one of the things actually, literally, I think 2 days ago, I emphasized was that, for example, before we were putting in what is it called? I forgot. Like the laundry and washing machine, like the laundry units inside the units, right? And I remember one of the questions to one of my partners was that, oh, with the units that we're going to be putting in, like the building that we're going to be buying, we're going to have all in suite. Is it
Yeah.
in suite laundry? Yeah.
Ensuite.
And ensuite, yeah, ensuite laundry. And then actually to me, I was with the way I'm seeing things happen, again, curious on your opinion, is that because rents are so high and going up just because of inflation and everything that's going on, our plans through things is we may have the drawings show that we may put in the ensuite laundry, but we probably won't be doing it because we feel that tenants will be wanting is more about cost savings than it is to pay higher rent. So I'm curious on your opinion on that, because that's like one thing, for example, that we probably are, or I've been thinking like that's kind of one of the things, like I feel like tenants are wanting to just do super basic because they need to save money. Curious on your opinion on what I said. So I mean, like if you're going to change my mind, let's do it.
I know. I can definitely address, but I have a few more questions. What location, first of all?
We're looking in the Hamilton area.
And then what are we talking about? Are we talking about duplexes, or are we talking about multi-units, like
Multi-unit buildings.
above four or five 4 units?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we're in the 5 to 10 or 5 to 15 range is what we're looking at.
So what is it that so you're saying that you're going to show it in the drawings, but you're not going to supply the washing machine?
As in, we're going to have it that maybe, for example, in like 2, 3 years, once the recession is gone, that maybe we'll install it at that time.
But
But
the
for right
plumbing being
now,
done?
we're doing very basic drawings. So, for example, like just the basic 2 bedroom and basically no extra luxuries or anything of it. And the reason
So,
for us is,
sorry, but in the process of renovating it, are you doing the plumbing for the laundry or no?
yeah, we'll probably have everything prepared for it. We just won't put it in. Like we won't
I,
actually, it won't be there. Like it won't be there for, like it's not going to be like, hey, you guys can have an in-laws ensuite laundry. It won't be available for them to use. It's
so
just to prepare it for like future to be able to add it in.
Understood. So in my opinion, I feel like the cost of the laundry machines is going to be relatively minimal for you guys to add. Now, so I can't imagine that there'd be considerable savings, and I would argue that tenants will very much appreciate that, and quite often. So sounds, but hey, it is what it is. We're investors here. One of the things that I've heard people say is that tenants can afford rent, but they can't afford to buy their new homes. They're happy to pay more for quality. So depending on there's a lot that plays into this, depending on the location, like you'd have to analyze that data yourself. But what I will say is that if the renovation allows for separation of the hydro, in which case you can put the bills on them and reduce your cost of operating that building, like I would encourage you to look at the CMHC program to finance this building and what your exit's going to be on this building in the sense of the refinance. And like if there is an opportunity to boost rents because you've added washing machine and the laundry stack, you boost rents and therefore qualify for the CMHC program. The savings of the CMHC program far outweigh the cost of the washer laundry stack. So,
You know where our problem lies?
Mm.
Is because the valuations, the appraisals are not coming in high anymore. So that's one of our reasons why we're thinking to maybe not put it in, because it doesn't give, like for example, like that when we did another one 2, 3 years ago, it was like adding AC and furnaces and ensuite laundry was like crazy what it was letting us like increase the value of the house by. But it's actually, but I can't say that we've done actually the full investigation, but just because what we've been seeing on how appraisals are coming in, that was actually another reason to why we're just thinking there's no point. Or for us, we're thinking there may not be any point. But again, we're so in the decision-making process right now, but that was like one of our big reasons is that we probably won't be able to appraise to the values that we're going to want to make it worth the while to put it
So
in.
in my experience, and my experience is quite limited on this, I'm going to be very honest with you. It's very interesting that the wise guys are online right now. Uh,
Share your opinion, guys.
because they're jumping in exactly on a topic that they know more than I do on. But this is a lot of it being learned from them is that your evaluation of some of these projects, whether it's a conversion, whether it's a full gut job of a multi-family project, you should do that with your appraised value on the way in and the appraised value on the way out, and kind of have those numbers dialed in, like based on somebody else, like get the whoever's financing the project, get them involved at the front end to be able to appreciate what it will take, what this thing is going to appraise at, and then you need, as the renovator, like as the active partner, need to appreciate what it takes to get to that point. So my argument would always be to include laundry unless there's an opportunity, but even that, unless there's an opportunity to put them separate and make an argument for the cash flow laundry machines in the basement can bring to your building. But I feel like that's more of a stretch. In my opinion, is if you're going to go through the renovation process and add the plumbing, you could put laundry stacks for about $1,300. Relatively insignificant in the grand scheme of things. There's probably other things you can do to the interior of these apartments to save money on. And like the one thing that comes to mind, don't go quartz, go laminate, or find some way to. But like things like these that are major that you're going to do the plumbing, I think in large part, a lot of these buildings, the hard part is figuring out the best way to run the plumbing and redoing the entire plumbing in a building. And then by the time you're doing all of that, you've allocated a closet big enough to fit this. The additional cost to throw in the laundry itself is minimal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for the advice. I'm gonna definitely have to think about it more. Like that, we're such in the beginning phases of deciding what needs to be done. But it's like things that we were throwing out to kind of like that, like decide like how will this recession impact? And it's kind of like one of those kind of conversations. Curious, last question for you. How do you think the recessions is going to impact your decision making on things? Besides, I know you've gone to BRRRRs, but just anything else that you feel that it's going to be impacting your decisions?
I don't know if it's the recession itself. I feel like there's a number of things that can impact my decisions, like what's the next step? I'm not entirely sure that I'm prepared to go into, or that there's enough time for us to go through that discussion. I think, taking on projects that are longer term where you can. So the focus for me is add value at the front end, force that appreciation at the front end, and then be in a position to put time on your side as well. So real estate in itself, through its definition and for hundreds and thousands of years, it appreciated in some form when you put time on your side. So if you can kind of cash flow the asset for a longer period of time and allow for some organic appreciation as well, I think that's where you're safe. That's the one thing that I'm considering as part of this. It's not the time to be as risky and like taking on projects that are subject to market speculation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. And actually, last one. I'm so sorry, I just forgot the one more. What is your thoughts on like that? For example, like more than first mortgages. Are you doing it? Are you or are you going more into a larger cash position when it comes to investing in properties?
So sorry, you're asking if I'm putting second mortgages on properties?
Or loans like with with upcoming investments, are you going in with bigger cash positions than you were before, or are you just analyzing the numbers and still getting like private loans, first mortgage, like for second mortgages, whatever? Like, are you still using a lot of debt, or are you going into more of a bigger cash positions?
Bigger cash position, but like that's the goal there is to achieve that via joint venture partners that can bring cheap money or as cheap money as you can to these sort of so to like commercial conventional mortgages or conventional bank loans, your whatever it is right now, 5.5%, 6% money, not and then there would be regular mortgage as opposed to interest only. But it still depends on the project. So my BRRRR projects that are intended, the discussion and the intent from the beginning is to be held long term. Then it's being done with a money partner that brought in 20%. They're able to leave that in for the duration of the renovation and hold the mortgage for that duration, and then refinance within whatever capacity. I'm with me being confident on the ARV, and then having the ability to refinance, having the ability to service that big debt at the end, right? Like to refinance for an additional $500,000 later. So I'm confident that we're going to get that ARV even in today's market, but hey, if it continues dropping, then we may end up bleeding a little bit more money. So one of my projects is intended that, like in best case scenario, we're going to leave $50,000 in. And if the market continues to drop as it has been, maybe we leave 100. They need to be like, they were aware of that. And I feel like it's not an ideal situation, but they're aware of it. It's not going to surprise anybody.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. It was so fun to chat with you, to see how things are going with you and just learn about what kind of projects you're working on.
My pleasure. I got to take advantage of the stage to drop the fact that this weekend I'm running the Hamilton Marathon. I'm raising money for McMaster Children's Hospital. I have a pretty lofty goal. I'm still quite far away from it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to I'll share the link on that. But yeah, I'm running the Hammer to Hammer. It's 15 kilometers on Saturday and a full marathon on Sunday. So wish me luck, and by all means, support the great cause.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely drop the link, and good luck. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, I just ran the Toronto Marathon a couple of weeks ago, so I'm still healing from that. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm optimistic. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing again. Good luck with your marathon, and thank you everyone for watching. Bye, Alex. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Oh, if I can, maybe we're stuck here. I can do it. Oh, guys, I'm stuck. I don't know why it's not working. And I'm here forever. Well, let me know what you guys thought. Oh, there we go.